I love looking at Judy watching videos. What are you getting?
Oh, there's David.
This part is and I would have my friend.
Yeah, we serve wine in the
grab your seats. If you have wine or something to eat, bring it on in here. Bring your glass and stuff in here. There'll be more of that later after our presentation. Welcome to Book Passage. I'm Dana Kelly. As always, we thank you for supporting independent bookstores like ours by being here. It's great to be here with Lily and several hundred of her closest friends. Take a chance to check your cell phones and make sure they're turned off. Lily seems like a very nice person, but if your phone goes off during one of her poems, I think there will be blood. So make sure your phones are turned off. We have a few books left. I think we are getting very close now to coming down to it. So if you haven't bought a book yet, the remaining ones are at the registers that you passed on your way into.
But there are other places where you can get it.
And that was Lily. So yes, when we're done, when Lily's done with her presentation in a short while, you'll have a chance to bring the book that you bought up here, and she'll be signing at this table right next to me, unless she's wandering around with a pen. And that'll be in a while after our reading. I want to read a quick quote from her fellow USF person, the poet Aaron Sherman, who's the director of the University of San Francisco's MFA program, who says, in part, from Mendocino to the Sea of Marmara to the Mexican highlands, these poems are afoot in the Whitman sense and wonderfully chewy. deeply figured and sonically dense. In other words, what we have here is poetic sustenance. Our guest tonight, as most of you know, is Iona MacKenzie. She's originally from Canada, graduate of San Francisco State's creative writing program. She's been writing at USF, the aforementioned, for over 20 years. She's also taught at College of Marin, out the freeway, former World College West, California College of the Arts, the Academy of Art College, and Contra Costa College. Has been a strong presence in Marin for quite a number of years in terms of various organizations she was a part of. She was the chair of the Marin Poetry Center and has also been a part of the Marin Poetry Center Traveling Show. If any of you have been here for those, we have that once a year here at Book Passage. She also worked at First Presbyterian Church for 5 years, where she started an emergency shelter with the social service sector. And she has published essays, articles, poetry, travel pieces, and short fiction in numerous publications in the U.S. And Canada. And we're very happy to have her here reading from her book tonight. Would you please welcome Iona MacKenzie.
Can you hear me? Yes, can you hear me? I'm a little bit nervous, and it reminds me of when I was 4 years old. My first performance was at a Christmas concert. There's Monica. Was at a Christmas concert in Langdon, Alberta, Canada. My mother had prepared me to do this verse, I had a little doggy. It's I had a little doggy, it used to sit and bake, but doggy tumbled down the stairs and broke its little leg. Oh doggy, I will nurse you and try to make you well, and you shall have a collar too, and little silver bell. The problem was, you can see I still remember it. My mother and my grandfather coached me for weeks before this performance. However, at the performance, I was so scared that I spent the whole time turned this way. And I did my thing this way because everyone looked like a bear. So I'm a little nervous tonight. I promise not to turn sideways, but if I shake a little, you'll understand why. Anyway, I thank all of you for coming. I have parts of my life scattered all over this room, and it's pretty astonishing. Carol Joseph's, we were cocktail waitresses together at the Fairmont Hotel many years ago. Kurt and his mom. Kurt was my son Leo's best friend when they were really little. People from the Dream Group that I was a part of for I think 25 years are here. People from a writing group that I was involved in for many years are here. And then just good friends and neighbors. So I thank you all for coming. This is sort of my coming out party, coming out of the closet as a poet. Most of you don't know me as a poet, and so I feel a little naked standing here and sharing this part of myself. Let me just say a few words about how this book happened. Poetry, just writing poetry, has always been so satisfying to me that I never felt as if I needed to publish it. I've published individual poems over the years, of course, but it never occurred to me to put together a book and put it out into the world until my husband Michael insisted that these poems needed to be in a book. And so I put together a collection and I sent it out to a few places, not expecting much, because if any of you know what the poetry scene is like, you know that poets have trouble getting books published, just as most people have trouble getting books published, but especially poets. So I was pretty surprised when I got a call one morning in April of this year from Michael Linnard, another Michael. He's publisher of the Little Red Tree Publishing in New London, Connecticut. And he said in his wonderful Welsh voice, I would like to publish your poems if you don't mind making a few adjustments. And I was sort of speechless, and of course I didn't mind making a few adjustments. They were adjustments that made the book better. So I thank Michael Leonard, who of course isn't here, but Ben Dunn, a friend who is taping this, is here, and with whatever he comes up with, I can send this to Michael Leonard and family and friends who can't be here. So I really appreciate Ben and Judy for doing this for me. I also want to thank my stepdaughter, Eva Zimmerman, who is a publicist at Seal Press, and she's the one who set up this reading and has been extremely helpful to me in the publicity scene. And of course, thanks for Book Passage for keeping up the good fight as an independent book publisher and creating this kind of a venue for writers and people in the community. It's a great bookstore. Let me just mention that these poems were written over the past 20 years. And some were workshopped in the poetry writing group I was part of. So those of you who are here may recognize a couple of these. Before I start reading them, I just want to say that Michael and I went to a place called Osoyoos. Anyone heard of Osoyoos, BC? Nobody. It's across the border from Washington State. It's a wonderful little town. They have lots of really good wine. But they have this place called the Observatory B&B where we stayed for a couple of nights. And the Observatory B&B is an observatory. It has a world-class telescope and a world-class astronomer who operates it. And at night, he would take us up and show us what the heavens look like through that telescope. In the morning, he did the same thing. And when you go out in the daytime, all you see is blue, right, if it's clear. And so it was just amazing to look up in the sky during the day, especially, and through this telescope, and there was Uranus, there was Saturn, there were all of these amazing things that we're usually not aware of. And it made me reflect then on art and on poetry and on how, at least for me, what I look for in good art and good poetry is a way of seeing, a way of perceiving that I otherwise wouldn't have had. So the telescope becomes a kind of a metaphor then for art. I hope some of my poems at least do that. So I focused on poems that are exemplary of a few themes, main themes in the book. Aging, anyone? Mortality, anyone thinking about those things? The role of language and how we perceive always interests me. The way words speak us into being, and the role of art in perception. Before I read the first poem, again a little background. From the time I was 4 until I was 8, I lived on a farm, and the farm didn't have any indoor plumbing. So we got water through a pump, and there was a pump in the kitchen that we used to get our water. So this poem is entitled Priming the Pump. Priming the pump, we called it, when we needed water. I waited while Mother grabbed the handle and worked it up and down. Deep in the machinery, something groaned, the handle continuing its rhythmic motion, and then gurgled, followed by a trickle, until water gushed from the spout, quenching a long-held thirst. Water so cold it burned. I think of this tonight, seeking a poem, hoping one will well up and slake my need. I spent the day nudging myself just like Smokey did when he wanted food, rubbing his velvety mouth against my neck. I remember him trotting to the water trough, slurping and sucking scum from the surface, bits of green dripping from his muzzle. I hope the day's residue will rise in me so I can sip from it, flecks of words appearing on this page. The next poem brings in elements of my childhood on the prairies as well as my current life in the Bay Area, and it's entitled El Nino. And I forget exactly what year it was when we had the last El Nino, or maybe we just continuously have one, I don't know. Anyway, it's in two parts. The first part: the Olympics ended tonight, athletes exceeding their own limits, nights drenched with rain, days reeling from floods and wind out of control. No one can predict when it will end, computer maps unable to contain nature. Tulips keep secrets enfolded, shoots push through mud, blue breaks under weight of heaven, sky a purse turned inside out, a book opened, words tumbling to earth. Ah, the sight of letters thrown into chaos, fabric torn. 2. A rainbow curves over San Francisco Bay, city reeling from too much rain. Another storm waits offshore, thunder and lightning rare here, but common on the prairies where I grew up. Sky ripped open with light, thunder rattling pots in pantry, earth's belly rumbling and oh so hungry. Mother Marina and I shiver in the car, mother as frightened as we, afraid of being fried, praying to be spared. Here there are tall buildings to hit, and I no longer hide in my car. But I remember those earlier storms, how close they came to striking us, exposed as we were on those prairies of my youth. This next poem also takes place solely in Canada, in Calgary. It's amazing that Calgary has had a zoo for as long as I can remember, and that's quite a long time now. And this poem is entitled Virtual Reality. A peacock spreads its feathers and preens, strutting back and forth, competing with flame-colored flamingos and the gorgeous swan nesting in a cloud of green, head tucked under its body. My 101-year-old mother, white fur wrap draped over her shoulders, applauds and points at snow leopards, their eyes flaring red in pictures I took. They're in the album next to broken down camels and giraffes stretching their long necks, nibbling tops of fake trees. A hippopotamus surfaces in a nearby pool, only its eyes and nose visible. It surveys the shore and the people watching it. I remember visiting the Calgary Zoo as a child, clinging to mother's hand, entranced by monkeys grooming each other, checking for fleas and playing with genitals. I remember too the bears, grizzly, black and polar, and their teeth not crest white, but something darker, stained from berries and blood. There were lions as well, mangy, but attempting to appear proud and fierce, our human eyes sapping them of strength. Mother says, "Look, they're watching us." And I wonder what they see, these bags of bones disguised by clothes, our own animal selves cowering under their gaze. I used to go to Green Gulch fairly often, actually, to meditate and to hear these words of wisdom from the abbot. And this poem has its roots there, so it's entitled Speaking Her Truth. I carry my folding chair out of the zendo, hand it to a woman who passes it to a man for stacking. I can't take my eyes off her toenails. Red polish, the same shade as the chair's padded seats, smeared and mostly worn off. Days later, it's not the Bodhisattva statues or the Buddha I recall, nor the abbot's talk on speaking our truth so others might speak theirs. Those ruined toenails are her truth, an attempt to turn her feet into blooms, legs stems for the petals of her toes. She glides out of the zendo into the garden where fog nudges, sweet peas, and an ocean wind casts spray in her face, takes her breath away. Michael and I like to go up to Sea Ranch to get away from it all. And this poem is about one of those times. It's entitled Seizing the Past. I try to seize the past few days on these dunes in language. The meadow's golden grass borders the sea, ocean spinning itself and reflecting. Everything filled with rectitude, birds hovering over prey, knowing exactly when to dive, disappearing into tall grass. So much out of sight, the deer avatars, heads bobbing in and out of view. A brown rabbit streaks past, seals frolic in white surf, heads wreathed in seaweed. Stars stare out of black and form familiar patterns, Milky Way, a haze of subdued light, Big and Little Dipper dipping into ink, black night. Mars pulses and flexes its muscles, carrying a torch for the moon and challenging her glow. If only all life could be caught in words, turned over and over until they gleam, giving the illusion of permanence. We have some strange things happen sometimes in Richmond, where I live. This poem describes one moment. It's entitled Night Tremors. For weeks they awakened me, hissing and grunting, the sounds shredding my sleep. The noises seemed to come from outside, some raccoons maybe, mating in the pencil-thin light of the moon, or shy opossums performing an impossible ritual under the bushes next to the bedroom wall. One night I could stand it no longer and burst outside at 3 a.m., flashlight in hand, planning to confront my tormentors. I crept down the steps into the garden, circle of light guiding my way, shining on the wall. Nothing stirred. But back inside, I could still hear the struggle and realized it came from under the house. I knew some errant god had taken over the place. I would never again sleep with the same equanimity. In my dreams, I would see sharp incisors gnawing at the foundations and fierce black eyes glinting like glass. We're still in Richmond in this poem. It's entitled The Art of Zen. Roof rats have invaded our attic, burrowing into insulation and storage boxes, making a home for their young. Whenever I open the attic door, their scat showers me, and the musky rodent smell seeps into the house. It's zen not to be attached to our belongings. Maybe they're a test of how ready I am to let go of something I can't take with me. A 4.5 earthquake hit yesterday and reminded me of how tentative all this wood is we call home. A little stronger and we may have been sleeping outside, and the rats would have taken over the demolished structure, creeping at night through crevices and caves left by the quake, noses twitching, eyes glinting, claiming the destruction as their own. So now I'm going to move into some poems that deal specifically with aging. This first one's entitled Endgame, and for those of you who don't play chess, the last phase of the game, when there are a few pieces on the board, the character of the play differs somewhat from the middle game. I stopped writing poems on my birthday. The last one, I think, was 49. Now the years feel like bullets I can't dislodge. They've entered my heart permanently, steel slugs. I wish I had a rose for every time I wished I could do it again. I would have enough for a funeral pyre and more. These thoughts are getting me down. Mortality, the price of life. Even love has changed. It's fire, a slow burn that creeps under my skin, loosening it, freeing me somehow. These thoughts come on a Monday morning near the end of another year, on a hilltop overlooking the Anderson Valley. Fog drifts in the basin, sun filling up pockets, grazing treetops. Just down the street from here is Gold's Gym, and Michael and I spend quite a bit of time at Gold's Gym, and guess why? This is entitled The Young Bulls. The young bulls in the gym vie with each other for who is the strongest. One wears a blue Duke t-shirt, a weight hooked to his waist by a belt. He easily does chin-ups, the weight dangling between his legs like another ball. His friend watches and then tries to pull himself up, but fails without his buddy's help. He glances at me, aware that I've seen his defeat. I turn away, not wanting to increase his unease, yet the moment weighs on me. Two men trying to overcome their limits, pushing each other to excel. My own aging body, a weight I can't shed. Well, here's another one, if you can stand it. This is the age when our bodies give up their secrets. The kidney with a kink in a duct, the knees that run out of cartilage. Aging turns us inside out. We wear our hearts on our sleeves and all the other parts as well. At 20, I didn't think about such things. My body more a source of pleasure than pain, wired for sex. Now the pleasures take longer, and I listen with dread to piteous stories of the really old. They chronicle aches and pains, broken hips and arthritic joints, eyes and ears failing to register sights or sounds, bodies unable to keep up their ambitions. I hold fast to the image of sunflowers, their dark centers pulsing, yellow petals fringing the everlasting green. I'll let you know how many more of these there are. I think we're getting near to the end of this the aging mortality thing. This is entitled Eulogy. It wasn't the eulogies that finally made me love them, this couple that died within a week of each other, old friends of my husband. Nor was it the ceremony at the cemetery of placing their ashes in the ground, each in separate, cheery-colored urns, their son bought in Chinatown. We joined a handful of family members and friends on folding chairs, San Francisco's hills limned in the distance, regretting that these two would never see this scene again and musing on our own demise. Nor was it the verdant grass so lush there, fed it seems by remains, or the hush surrounding us, broken only by an occasional passing car or a plane or a grandchild's cry of joy. It happened later at the memorial service in that crowded living room. I saw the faces of all who came to pay their respects to them. He, a gifted child psychiatrist, she, a noted author. And I realized I was encountering the dead in the mourner's eyes. At last, I could embrace them myself, something I couldn't do in life, each too self-absorbed, the final protracted illnesses devouring whatever remained. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's move on to Tutankhamun. As you know, Tutankhamun was the boy king or pharaoh, better known as King Tut. And I recall seeing this amazing photo of him in the New York Times one day, and I had to write this poem. Tutankhamun, his mummy wrappings fall away, and he stares at us in all his imperfection, jutting buck teeth, elongated head. Not so different from you or me, except he goes back hundreds of years. The light of science erases illusions we had about the boy king. CAT scans purred as they've invaded his world and reconstituted the man, though they couldn't resurrect his brain, thoughts and memories frozen. Only the acts of art can tease them out, the artist imagining what Tutankhamun felt before succumbing, that last fatal moment when he remembered his two stillborn sons and his own short life cleared up in relief. This is a little lighter. We're getting now to resurrection, okay? It's entitled The Flowers Are Back. The flowers are back. tiny buds digging into their tombs, ready to break out that old resurrection theme again. They leave a mess behind, casings, cluttered walkways, lawns, evidence of their escape. Lazarus was much neater, simply rising from the dead, no big aftermath. But Jesus left chaos. Those women who claimed they saw the risen Christ, a few disciples, and all the rest who still believed. It's the season to reflect on these things, to read into new growth, something more. Michael and I like to travel when we can, and about 3 years ago we went to Turkey and spent 3 weeks, and these next 3 poems deal with that experience. The first one's entitled The Mullah's Call. The Mullah's call to prayer shatters my dreams at 4:30 a.m. I surface in an Istanbul hotel room, arms flailing the air as if drowning in all that darkness. The voice rises and falls, savoring the minor key and Arabic words I can't understand. They clash with horns from yellow cabs crowding the narrow streets, cabbies shouting at each other and pedestrians, voices part of Istanbul's fabric, a magic carpet we ride along the Bosphorus, that ancient route leading out to sea. Each time I hear the call, I feel deep melancholy. All those Arabian nights I read as a child, magic carpets drifting in and out of view. The real thing hangs in every shop we pass, intricate patterns and gardens of praise interwoven. Burqa-clad women stare into jewelry and dress shop windows, fingering the goods with their eyes. The blue eye of Allah watches from cheap trinkets sold in souvenir shops. We got to see Troy. You don't exactly see Troy because it's buried, but it was pretty exciting to be there. It's now 2.5 miles inland, and we discovered that 9 civilizations have been built on top of the other. Anyone else here been to Troy? Yeah, you know. So the city was reconstructed at least 9 or 10 times. Homer's Troy would have been Troy 7. Let me just mention, I'm going to quote Homer in this poem a couple of times, and I'll do this. I also want to mention that Sthenelus is the son of Perseus and a general. My poem's entitled Troy 11, and you'll know why it's Troy 11 by the time I finish. So here's quote. As the swarms of flies seethe over the shepherd's stalls, so many long-haired Achaeans swarmed across the plain to confront the Trojans. Here's my poem. A hot day in a hushed silences the flies. I think I see the soft curve of a woman's hip under swaying cloth. Goats graze surrounding fields, the sea now far in the distance. Sthenelus sprang to the ground from his chariot, and standing beside him pulled the sharp arrow clean through his shoulder. I stroke the stone wall, rough surface crusted with age. Fine dust clings to my fingers. Rocks evenly stacked, row upon row, meander, connecting all 10 Troys, collapsed into each other like Russian dolls. 3,000 years prod cracks in a farrago of lives. Our feet graze rock slabs, slick this time. I expect to hear a horse's whinny or a donkey's bray, smell flesh sizzling over coals, see a warrior's blood spurting through the delicate tunic. Weeds poke through spaces between stones, and blood-red poppies thrive among remains. We stop and watch ants, the size of stars, lugging bits of straw. They descend through a hole underground, building their own Troy. And in Turkish, the moon's name is Ay, and it seems so appropriate to be reading this tonight because if you notice when you come in, there's an incredible moon. This poem's entitled, and this won first place in a contest I entered, Pursuing I. Each night we waited on rooftop terraces overlooking the Bosphorus and Sea of Marmara for just a sliver. We finally asked a waiter if the moon ever rose in Istanbul. I? Oh yes, I comes. It wasn't till we left the city in its cacophony of red-tiled roofs that we caught a glimpse. We watched it from a terrace on the Dardanelles, falcate shape, faintly visible, competing with the setting sun. A tongue of flame slashed the horizon, reddish-orange, reminding me of amphora we saw at Troy. Naked Greek warriors silhouetted in black sprint across its surface. Then I appeared, cautiously, exposing a little more each night, until at last, past Ephesus and ancient Antalya, it dropped its veil. We thought we captured the full moon on camera, but the lustrous globe we saw in the Mediterranean sky refuses to appear, lost in the flashbulb's glare. Mexico, we went to Mexico a couple of years ago, and I climbed the Pyramid of the Sun. And if you've ever been there, you know that's quite an accomplishment. But it also made me think of others who have been there. And for those of you who don't know, Teotihuacan is the ruins of an ancient Mesoamerican city near Mexico City. This is entitled Pyramid of the Sun. How did they feel after being forced to climb 248 steps without a railing? Their breathing labored, hearts flooding. They knew at the end was their end, to be sacrificed on the altar to a nameless deity. From the top, it would appear their life was just beginning. The massive Cerro Gordo Mountains in the distance, Teotihuacan at their feet. At that height, they could see all they would lose at the flash of a knife. No angel of independence rescued them, nor did the hungry sun, but the wind ruffled their hair and whispered in their ears a language they couldn't comprehend. Well, I haven't told you this yet, but I may have mentioned that Michael's my first and best reader. He also loves it when I put him in a poem. So this poem is dedicated to Michael. And sometimes when we're traveling by car, often when we're traveling by car, Michael drives and I have my laptop and I write while he drives. And so in this poem, we're heading towards Yellowstone from the Grand Tetons. The poem's entitled Old Faithful. You can interpret that. Old Faithful for Michael. Give me some lines, I say. He freezes, too self-conscious to speak. I mean, can you believe? And grips the wheel, watching the Grand Teton slip past the car and our lives on cruise control. The Snake River snakes through lodgepole pines and lupin thirsts by the side of the road. We enter Yellowstone, seeking Old Faithful. This is Michael. Wyoming's so poor they can't afford road signs. They don't want you to leave. Look, Delaware, Alabama, Louisiana, the whole country's here. We pass a section of burned out trees, trunks stripped bare and listing, resembling abandoned teepee poles. Some seem like trees on stilts. Others appear to be wearing skirts. Steam hovers over the land, a ghost's breath, a dragon's plume. And then Old Faithful bursts from the ground, sputtering and gaining force. Finally, it surges high above, conic shape hovering before sputtering to an end. The photos we take catch its motion, but they don't reveal the feeling we had watching the geyser erupt, close to longing, the ability to burst free of all restraints and soar. This is the last poem, guys. And it's the title poem of the book, All This. Excuse me while I clear the rest. And the circumstance for this poem, some of you remember that I lost my home in a fire in 1992. Lots of people gave me things because I was left with nothing. All this. Everything seems new against the fire that now lights the world. Blackbird, not black, but bluish green, its feathers notes for a violin. Even seashells are pure color, the luminosity of peach, gold, and sandstone, holding shapes in constant hunger. They sit on the bookcase, startled by themselves, inhabited by ocean, the sky, knobby protuberances reaching out in all directions like spring. And the books, they too have become more, gifts from friends, strangers, black letters piling up on white shelves, pyres of ashes watching themselves become meaning. All this and the Sunday morning light, no different from any other Sunday, yet not the same, filled with itself and flames hovering at edges. We were created from flame, flesh, a second thought, made from words, now ashes, filled with blood, spirit. The levelers blink at the day, protecting the window, glass holding it all back. Without it, there would be too much to take in, an apocalypse of colors, purple, sage, forest green, the peach of an eardrum, the swirling pastels of a knee's interior. All this.
Thank you, Lily. Thank you all for coming tonight. There's still some more food and drink in the back there, and there are a few books left at the registers. If you've got one now, though, feel free to come on up and get it signed, and thank you all for being here tonight.
Thanks, yeah. They're signing. That was. So I don't even know what. Congratulations. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you for making a poetry fan with me. That was beautiful.
Wonderful. So you have been a poetry fan?
It's mainly been fiction and
Oh, that's wonderful
short
if I've been a
stories.
poetry
So
fan.
that was wonderful.
Oh,
Really enjoyed
thanks.
it.
One of my other best readers.
Well, thank you. It's a great group. I appreciate your insights. I really do. All right. Thank you. Yes.
So nice. It's under now.